Hey, this is Mike, Seder 42 Vinyl. This is going to be part 2 of April 2024 pickups for alternative and rock music. And the first one I'm going to show is an album I got from a band called Cosmic Jimmy. And if you watch my Power Pop video, I talked about a band called The Toms. And The Toms are just kind of like a Beatles-esque power pop band that made an album in 1979. The guy wrote like 40 or 50 songs and put out a vinyl record back then in 1979. That was just a really, really good power pop album. He reissued it recently with the second album, so it's two albums, a 2-album reissue with a bunch of extra songs that didn't make it out of those 40 or so that he wrote. But then also, I didn't even know about this, but as soon as I saw this cover, I was like, what is this? And this is actually a 2024 or 2023 reissue of The Toms, and it's a band called Cosmo Jimmy that he did. It's kind of like an 80s throwback pop band, and according to everything I read, this album allegedly was recorded in 1987, but it seems suspicious, like maybe it was recorded more recently and just made it sound like it was released in 1987. I don't know for sure, but the reissue says 2023, and it says the original album was supposedly came out in 1987. And it says, from the archives of Grammy-nominated power pop genius Tom Morolda, The Toms, an unreleased 1987 album from his sinister alter ego Cosmo Jimmy. And yeah, this is just like 80s pop music with some raunchy lyrics. And it was kind of fun. I listened to it once so far, and I thought it was interesting. I'm going to have to give it a few more listens, but this might be one of the most interesting albums that I bought this month as far as a curiosity. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, it's kind of interesting. It's very pop, but kind of like that pop rock. I really don't know how to describe it. That's why I just like playing the songs, because that tells you, more of what it sounds like than how I can describe it. But I did enjoy listening to this. I'm going to spin it a few more times. It was kind of, like I said, a fun, curious album.
When I'm holding you near, I can really feel that something's missing. Batteries not included. You wouldn't last another mile. Batteries not included. If I gave you the chance, could we put it on trial? Batteries not included. Looking for a cha-cha charge. Batteries not included. A do-lang, a do-lang, a do-lang, a do-lang. Love is an energy.
All right, the next album I got, this one came out in 1982. This was a band that was actually recommended to me through my Power Pop videos, which I'm super grateful for everybody that's been watching and commenting and suggesting bands. And this is The Kind, and this is a really good album. This kind of reminds me a bit of maybe a mix of Billy Squier and Ricky Springfield, kind of like in that style, the guitar tone and the songwriting style. It just kind of reminded me of that. I mean, maybe it reminds other people of something else, but that's kind of what hit me when listening to this. And I thought it was really, really good. This is some really good power pop from 1982. So this was past the, the peak of, the Knack and all those guys, hitting big. And there were still bands that were trying to, jump on that bandwagon. And these guys were just a little late, being from the early, past 81, past 80, 81. But yeah, I don't think this album hit. I'd never heard of this band until somebody suggested it to me. So, they were kind of underground. Good stuff, though. They have another album that I'm interested in. I'm going to listen to that one a little bit, stream it, see if I want to get that one. But this one I really enjoyed.
I'll introduce myself again. Her friends call me Joe. She don't know my name, but I know. I'm gonna find a way to you. Tell me where to go. I'm on the verge, total insanity.
Another album, speaking of Billy Squier, and speaking of kind of pressings that are audiophile, I did kind of a test because a friend of mine, Rockley Records, he's very much into the audiophile pressings, and he kind of swears by these pressings that they're better than the normal presses or the original presses in some cases. So I really wanted to try it. I'm like, I'm going to spend a little bit of money this month that I'm going to earn in April, and I'm going to buy a couple albums. I'm going to buy a few albums actually. So I bought 3 audio presses, and this is one of them. This is one of my favorite albums, so I listened to this album quite a bit as a kid and as an adult, so I know this album pretty well. So I figured, I'm going to buy an album that I know well, so that if I play it and I hear some type of wow difference, I'll be very impressed. And so I bought the Billy Squier Don't Say No. This is the Intervention Records reissue. And this album is fantastic. And it actually does sound really good on this pressing. But I really have to say that I don't think, at least with my ears, and my hearing, I'm 50 now, so my hearing is not as good as it used to be. I would say, I'm not like deaf or anything like that, but I definitely don't have the young hearing that I used to. So I wasn't really able to notice that much of a difference. Now, my original press of this is not as incredibly clean as this, and I think that this pure vinyl or whatever this, it's not pure vinyl, but this more, newer pressing being never played versus my original press probably having been played, hundreds of times maybe before I even bought it. So this album definitely has a lower noise level as far as, the noise on the album, the surface noise. So it sounds better in that respect. So the music comes through, it pops, but I just felt like that the music, the instrumentation and stuff, I didn't notice much of a difference between listening to like one song on here at very loud and then the same song on the other album, closing my eyes, really paying attention. I think like drums and bass are probably affected the most on this audiophile pressing, where it's a bit more punchier on this pressing than it is on the original. But I don't know if it was enough, because especially this album, you can get this album for like $5 or $10 in really good shape on original press, and this one costs like 40. So I don't know that it's worth that, at least to me, but I'm probably going to keep this pressing. This is one that I'm probably going to keep because I think I do like this album, and I didn't notice any difference, negative. I felt like I felt like the mix was very similar to the original press. And I felt like maybe it was slightly wider soundstage, and maybe the bass and the drums were a bit punchier. So I felt like this was a slight improvement over the original press. So I'm going to hold on to this one as well as keep my original press. And I'm going to show you another audiophile record that I bought. And that is The Cars, the first album from The Cars. And this is the original master recording from Mobile Fidelity. Now, this album I had a negative experience with on the audiophile pressing. There is in my opinion, with my hearing, with what I'm hearing on my system, there's a very big difference in the mix between the original press and this pressing. And I feel like that the original press is way, way better. In this pressing, I think that the sound stage is wider. I feel like I can hear the sound coming from a little bit further outside of the speakers than normal, than more of it being directly front at you. So I felt like that was cool, but Rick Ocasek's vocals and the other guy who sings vocals, basically the vocals on this album are pushed way back into the mix, and it's noticeable from the original press. Like the original press, I can hear all the lyrics, I can hear them singing, and I can, it's very clear. I feel like he's right at the microphone singing directly at me. But on this pressing, he's buried in the mix. Like all the vocals are buried behind the bass and the drums and even the guitar a little bit. The guitar sounds probably mostly the same from what I can tell, but the drums and the bass are pushed way up and the vocals are pulled back and the soundstage is bigger. But overall, I felt like the way that mix sounds, I didn't like it. I was kind of disappointed with this one, and I am going to be selling this version of the album. I'm not holding on to this. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed in this one. Whereas the Billy Squier, I felt like sounded very similar to the original press, but it just sounded a little bit better because it was brand new and, it was a new mix and the volume was up. I felt like the volume was lower on this too. I had to turn it up a bit more in order to get it to the same volume level as the original press that I have. But I also felt like the original press, like the instrument separation was better. And I felt like the vocals were right here. He was singing right at me. And I guess I enjoyed that more. I felt like that sounded better to me than this mix. So I was disappointed in this, and I will be selling this. And I've because of the mixed experience I'm having with some of these pressings, like I didn't immediately be like, oh, I like these a lot better, I'm going to keep buying them. I felt like either they sounded similar, too close to the originals, where I was like, dude, I just saved like $30 by just buying an original, or they sounded too different, and I was like, I didn't like the new mix. So I think I'm gonna be the guy who tries to buy original presses of non-audiophile stuff. I will buy represses, but I'm not going to go for the audiophile version of represses. I'm just going to go for regular, if they're available, right? If there is only one repress version, then maybe I'll pick up another audiophile of something if that's the only way I can get it and it's something that I want. But I'm not going to specifically seek out audiophile pressings anymore just because of my experience and how expensive it can get. And here's another audiophile pressing that I got, and this was the Knack. Get the Knack. Now, this album is maybe a little unfair because there's not much to this. It's just guitar, bass, and drums and vocals. You can only do so much if the original recording is basic. You know what I mean? If there isn't any much there to play with. And I felt like they did a good job with this one. It sounds very similar to the original press. Again, this is a new album versus a used record. So this surface noise is less on this, and the vinyl is obviously different as well. Like older albums from the 80s, they have impurities in them, so the surface noise on those might be a little bit more anyway, even if it was brand new out of the sleeve, even if it was never played before. I think that newer vinyl is slightly quieter, but regardless of that, the mix on this I think sounds very similar, and I just don't know that I need to have an audiophile pressing that sounds so similar to the original press. And again, I think the sound stage is just slightly wider. I feel like I can hear it a little bit more on the outside of my hearing, but I don't know if I necessarily even like that as a concept, just because I've been listening to music, like, I guess the normal way for so long, that this didn't when I heard that extra soundstage, I was like, okay, that's cool. But I wasn't like, oh my God, I really want to hear more of my album sound like that. So I just think that these audiophile pressings that I got, maybe it's just the ones that I got, right? I know people are going to, you don't have the right ones, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. It's too expensive to see if it's a fit for me. So I think I'm just going to keep buying either original presses as much as I can, or represses that are not necessarily audiophile if I have the option. Like, if the Knack, obviously I'm not buying this album again, but, I'll just use it as for an example. If a new pre-press of the Knack came out and I didn't have it, and there was an audiophile press and a regular press, I would probably just go for the regular press, honestly. It'll be cheaper, most likely, and I think that the sound quality will probably be similar. Now, of course, it varies, right? I'm not going to say that this is the case with everything, but I'm just not going to seek out audiophile pressings anymore. That's just what I'm going to do. All right, so speaking of power pop, I picked up The Producers. This was recommended to me, again, through my power pop video, band I had never heard of, and I played some of the songs, I streamed it, and I was like, this is for me. This is in 1981, so this is right in the, pretty much the prime of power pop, at least right around there. And again, though, I think this is kind of the tail end of that. I think that from 78 to 81, like probably hundreds of power pop bands got signed, maybe, and a quarter of them or less probably had hit singles. I don't recall ever hearing any of this stuff on Detroit radio. I played this album and I was like, I didn't recognize any of these songs, but it was perfect in my style of what I liked about power pop. So this is a good album. And again, thanks for recommending it to me. Anybody who recommended anything to me, I appreciate it.
What's he got that I ain't got? He's got you. what he's got. Hey! Saw you with that man, I'm in a race. Big black car, long cigar, twice your age. Diamonds make you happy for a while, but my love is true, won't go out of style. What he got that I ain't got? He's got you. That's what he's got. That's what he's got. Hey! Looking for a place in his will.
This album I found kind of at the same time. I was like looking up The Kind, I was looking up the producers, and this just came up, I think, in YouTube as a recommendation. And it's Hilly Michaels, and it's a band, an album called Calling All Girls. And I listened to the Calling All Girls video, I watched it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is definitely more new wave, in my opinion, I think, than power pop, but because it has, has more keyboards, I think, more electronic elements. It's more pop than rock, but it has those catchy choruses. So I kind of throw it in with power pop, and it's fun. It's just kind of a fun record.
I've got everything that my money can buy, but I'm so unhappy and now I know why. There's only one treasure in all of the world I never could buy, so I'm calling all. I'm calling all girls, I'm calling all girls. I'm calling all girls, I'm calling all girls. It may be foolish and it might sound funny, I can't help feeling I'm right. There's so many ways that I can spend my money, and girls are the reason tonight. I'm calling all girls, I'm calling all girls. I'm calling all girls, I'm calling all girls.
What else here? This was an album I didn't know existed as well, because the Toms reissued the 1979 album with the double record. He also released the 1979 session. I think there's songs on here that aren't or weren't on the original release of the Toms album. So I picked this up. It was really cheap. I haven't listened to this one yet, but I'm kind of excited to jump into it to see what it sounds like. I'm really enjoying a lot of this power pop stuff, and I really like the Toms. I think that that guy is just a really, really great songwriter, and he just writes some great hooks. So gonna enjoy some more Toms. This I got because I had a repress of this, and I had picked up multiple times an original press of this album that I just never bought it, and I always kind of regretted it. And I bought a repress. For some reason, I always regretted, it always kind of nagged me that I never picked up the multiple times I had the opportunity. I never picked up an original press. It was very clean. It had the inner sleeve, and so I bought the New York Dolls first album. Like I said, I had this album as a repress, but I really wanted an original press. I kind of always have. And I'm kind of at the phase of my record collecting. I'm still buying a lot of new stuff, but certain albums that I have of represses that I really want original presses of, there's not a lot. There's like literally a handful, but this was one of them for some reason. And I think it was because of the missed opportunities that I had to pick it up and just not getting it. I even encouraged a friend to buy one, and I let him buy it. I didn't buy it for myself. But I think since I bought this, I've listened to this original press already more than I've listened to my repress. So I think for some reason, I'm just happy to have an original press of this album for whatever reason. But that's all of April, and thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks. Bye.